Buck 52,000. Well, okay, what are the top 3 reasons for having a node? Well, I just said one. That's kind of my biggest reason for having I guess that's a server though, not a node. Top 3 reasons for running a node would be you get to verify yourself that your Bitcoin's there, right? And I'll give you guys an example here of actually I had a really good I talked with Buck 52,000 yesterday too, but I had a really good conversation with Paul, and he gave me an example that I'd never heard before of how to think about Bitcoin, and I loved it. And I think I'm going to be using this analogy in the future. But if you think about the Bitcoin blockchain, and if you think about it like visually as like a huge post office, and it's all glass though. It's all glass. So you can see inside of the post office, the boxes, right? So you can see what's in there. You can walk along, you can look, oh, there's some Bitcoin in there. There's some Bitcoin in this one. You can see it all. And you keep walking, but you only have your private key. Your private key only opens the one that you have access to, right? If you had a bunch of private keys, you could open a bunch of these different slots on the wall and get your Bitcoin out. The Bitcoin is a finite amount. Well, I shouldn't say finite. There's Bitcoin that comes in, every 10 minutes for the next couple of years anyways. But forget about that. Just think about it as a post office. And if you have a key, you can unlock that and you can move it around. You can take it out of there and put it into somebody else. You can't take it out of the post office. You can't leave, but you can just put it in somebody else's mailbox, essentially. So if you think about running a node, basically, if you're running a node, you get to see all of it and verify it yourself. If you're not running a node, essentially you're looking through somebody else's eyes at this post office. That's essentially what it means. Because even when you're trusting a website like mempool.space, that's just their information. It's not actual blockchain data. That's just their information of it. So you're relying on somebody else to verify that your Bitcoin's there, essentially. Your Bitcoin's in that mail slot. So the other part of the mailbox analogy that I like is that think about the post office there with all these mailboxes, all glass. You can see them all, but you can only open the ones that you have a key to. And the other part of that too is that there's no owner of the post office. Nobody owns it. Nobody can decide who comes in the door and who doesn't come in the door. Nobody owns that. And if that post office burned down, there's 25,000 other post offices around the world that you could see this on at any time. So I like that analogy, just visually thinking about how Bitcoin moves around on the blockchain. I love that. So that's one, the fact that you can actually walk into the post office yourself, essentially. Otherwise, you're trusting somebody else to tell you or take pictures of it, essentially. I think that that's a good kind of visualization of the blockchain itself, plus actually running a node to verify it yourself. You're the one walking through the door. You're not trusting somebody else to do it for you, taking a video or a picture, something like that. So that's one. You get to verify the balances yourself. You get to verify that the Bitcoin that you have a key to is actually there. It belongs to your wallet, your post office slot. The second reason for running a node would just be to further decentralize the network, right? So if there was only 300 people running a node, that wouldn't be very effective in terms of, trying to stop Bitcoin. The more nodes there are around the world, the more decentralized it is, the more secure the network is, and the more harder it is to stop, essentially. So I hope we get to a point where we have like millions of nodes around the world, because imagine that every 10 minutes when a new block is mined, the updated version of the ledger gets sent to 2 million people instead of just 20,000 people or 25, whatever it is now. So the more people who are running a node, the harder it is to stop Bitcoin, essentially, because that's a copy of the blockchain that all these people have now. Because that's what running a node is. You're basically just downloading a copy of the Bitcoin ledger, all the transactions that have ever happened before. You get a copy of that every 10 minutes, updated to your server. So the more of that we have, the harder it is to stop or change Bitcoin, essentially. So that's number two. And then the third one would be having a vote, having a say in the network. Because if there's ever anything that needs to change in Bitcoin, like if somebody makes a proposal to fork it or implement something into Bitcoin to change it somehow, you can decide if you want to keep using the old blockchain, the one that we're using right now, or if you want to go along with the fork. And pretty much the longest chain wins there. So it's important for people like us. And that's where it's different from like proof of stake. Proof of stake protocol essentially means that whoever has the most tokens gets to decide the direction of the chain. So that's like Ethereum. If somebody had like 55% of the Ethereum, which I think like a small group of people do, and they have done this, you can change the blockchain just because you have the stake. You have a stake in the network. You have a significant influence in the network because of your stake. And so you get to decide which way the blockchain goes to. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's all based on who's running a node. So if you're running a node and you keep running the old blockchain, that's a vote to not make any changes. If you're running a node and you update your software to go along with the new fork, then that's a vote for that. So that's what I would say to that. 3 reasons: you get to verify yourself, you're contributing to the network, you're helping to decentralize it and make it more unstoppable and immutable. And the third one is that you have a vote. You have a voice in this. That's important. And it's going to probably become more important as countries and big companies start buying Bitcoin. They might try to change it. So it's best that we have boots on the ground here